Class is in session. Hitting the Book Show. It's a special edition of the Hitting the Book Show. Ian Cameron with you. And it's not every day we get to have a former athlete, former player with us on the show. But today we have that opportunity. Former MLB player. Atlanta Braves is where he was drafted and started his career. Drafted exactly 20 years ago, if you could believe it. 2005. Where the fuck does the time go? And then, of course, made his MLB debut 2009. And I'm going to be 40 later this year. I know he's only 1 year younger than me, so where does the time go? But happy to invite for the first time on the Hitting the Books show, Jordan Schaefer. Jordan, glad to have you with us. How are you, my friend?
I'm great. I appreciate you having me.
No doubt. Let's just dive right into it. Drafted by the Atlanta Braves. We were talking just off air before the show started. It was your dad that really had a love for baseball, kind of got you into it as a kid. You started playing, and the next thing you know, drafted by the Atlanta Braves 2005. Talk about that whole journey.
Yeah, so as a kid growing up, my pops, he loved the game. He to this day he still loves the game way more than myself. It's he does it every single day. He trains my nephews now. He's a coach at the high school that I went to. He wasn't the coach when I was there, but he loves the game. So like growing up, he always trained me. He was up at 2, 3 in the morning, looking up new things, taking me all over for lessons, so on and so forth. So, I mean, ever since I can remember, whether we were on vacation, whether it was holidays, we always got our work in, and I got to spend so much time with him like that. So that's something I'm super grateful for because I feel like I got to spend already 2, 3 lifetimes of time with my pops in that short amount of time. But um, I went to high school, Winter Haven, and I was drafted. I originally committed to Notre Dame. Then some kind of stuff went down. I ended up committing to Clemson. Actually, Kevin O'Sullivan, the head coach at Florida, was the pitching coach then, and I was going there to do both pitch and play the outfield. Um, I honestly thought I was going to be drafted as a pitcher. I really never worked on hitting in high school. I only worked on pitching. So when I got drafted, I felt like I was like way behind the eight ball. Like I have no idea what I'm doing. In some instances, I was right. Like I went to rookie ball and I felt lost. But I worked my tail off and kind of things got a lot better. And from there, I had a relatively short time in the minor leagues before my debut, and then it kind of went from there.
And that first season, too, when you hit the big leagues there, 2009 it was, with the Atlanta Braves there. And just the thing I want to ask, it's the obvious question, Jordan, is obviously in the other sports, you think of football, you play just once a week, and you go from about August when training camp opens, late July, to January if you make the playoffs, and you play once a week. Even with hockey and basketball, you're playing 2, 3 times a week. Uh, Baseball, it's every friggin' day. It's every day just about you're playing. You open training camp, spring training, I should say, with baseball in mid-February these days. They're breaking for spring training. And then all of a sudden the season's starting now in late March. That grind of every single day just about you're playing in a baseball season, I don't know if people that haven't been in your shoes could fully grasp not just the physical, the mental grind of it all. Was that a bit of a learning process for you going through that?
Yeah, so I will say it's very underestimated if you haven't been in those shoes. The daily grind, if you play 162 games in 180 days, and that doesn't count anything to do with spring training or the playoffs afterwards. So you get 1, 2, maybe 3 off days in a month. And especially say someone like myself that is a center fielder, you're running, you're stealing bases, you're diving, you're running into walls. Like I know people don't think you get beat up because it's not a contact sport, say like football, but your body is absolutely exhausted. And it's every day, like you're warming up, you're sprinting, you're doing everything every single day. There is no walkthrough. So you get really, really beat up. And I mean, I still feel a lot of those effects till today, that you wouldn't necessarily think because, like I said, it's not a contact sport like football, but you get absolutely beat up for sure. And it's very physically, it's demanding, but even mentally, like the the mental grind every single day, and especially like baseball. Like baseball's a failing sport. You're gonna fail way more than you succeed, and that's really the only sport that you're gonna fail more. So like that's something that I feel like I was not good at handling. Was like, okay, oh for my last 12. Like I need to grind, and that's part of baseball though, right? And it definitely wears on you mentally over time.
How about some of those players on that first year team? You talk about how Chipper Jones was still going, in the latter stages of his career. He was on that 2009 Braves team. Guy that's had a great baseball broadcasting career since retirement, Jeff Francoeur, was on that team. Bobby Cox, the legendary manager of the Braves. Hell, he managed the Blue Jays even way back here in the day here. I'm just 1 hour west of Toronto, Jordan. I remember the days Bobby managed the Blue Jays as well. So talk about some of the players that you kind of looked up to, mentored you, helped you out and assist you, and kind of eased you in your first year.
So Chipper kind of took me under his wing because I was a Florida guy, him being a Florida guy. Actually, Matt Diaz, that was on my team there, he actually had the same high school coaches I had. So he's from the same area that I'm from. So that was something that helped. And then that team was extremely vet led, where I was super young, just getting my feet wet, and there was a lot of guys there that they were established, like they've been there for a long time. So it was nice to be around those guys and kind of try to pay attention and pick their, just basically be seen but not be heard, essentially, is kind of what the saying is. And I think what Chipper's last year was 12, I think. I remember when I was traded to Houston, he was just coming off of a hammy injury, and we faced Atlanta, I want to say the second series of the year, and he was just coming back, and I drag bunted, and I got a hit off of it. I got a text after the game that wasn't so pleasant from him. So it's there. We had a really good group of guys. Bobby was so awesome to play for. Like, if he needed to get your attention on something, he would say it behind closed doors, but he always had your back to the media. And how many Hall of Fame guys are around there? How many All Stars did we have around? You know what I'm saying? So it was a very unique experience, especially for someone like myself that's coming. I was 22 my rookie year, so coming straight from Double A half a year to the big leagues, and so it was a big wake up call.
Yeah, no doubt. I always say too, I got to throw this in there because you're going to get to learn with me, Jordan, that I like doing the name, parodies, if you will, like Glenn Perkins. I always say Perkins Family Restaurants whenever I talk about him. And I know one of the pitchers, and I remember him. That's how long I've been at this and in the industry and following sports. Jair Jurgens is one of the pitchers on that Braves team. I always said Jurgens hand lotion. There you go, because it just sounded like that. And I'll tell you what, you had that season. You got obviously. We're back and forth with the minors. You ended up traded to the Houston Astros. That first time you get traded, what's that feeling like?
So go back a little bit. So my rookie year is 2009. I ended up breaking my hand. So I missed that year. I missed 10. I'm back in the big leagues in 11, and then I get traded. So I didn't think I was getting traded, or let me take that back. At first, I thought I was for sure getting traded because I knew they were looking for kind of outfielders, but mostly like a right fielder at that time. And I remember walking out of the clubhouse the day before the deadline and telling Terry Pendleton, I'm going to get traded. I feel it. He's like, absolutely not. So my dad was actually in Atlanta at the time at my house, and I leave to get in the car. Before I pull out of the driveway, I get a phone call, and I look down. It says Frank Wren. Said, okay. So I answer. He goes, hey, Shafe, we made a deal. You were included. You're heading to Houston. And Houston was the worst team in the league at that time.
They're not like they've been the last decade. Exactly. I remember that. The bad years, the lean years before they got Springer and Altuve and all those, core players that they've had.
So when I get off my flight, the next day when I'm traded to Houston, I'm on my way. When I get to the park, I go in the Clubby's office, and there's this guy in here, and like, okay, the Clubby is handing this guy out uniform stuff. I'm like, oh, this guy's about 5'4". It's Jose Altuve. I'm like, what is going on? And sure enough, like, now listen, he's a tremendous player.
You look at first, that's what I would think if I looked at the guy and didn't know he played baseball. I look at him and who's this fucking little shrimp here? Like, what do we seriously? That's what I would be thinking.
Yeah. Well, and we
How
had
be that powerful, that much pop in his bat.
JD Martinez was there then. Jay Happ. There were some good guys there. It was just they started to get rid of, like, so I was traded for Michael Bourne. They got rid of Pence. They were basically selling off, and they were going to start over. Carlos Lee was still there then, but yeah, it was a wake up call, because I was coming from Atlanta where we were a playoff team, and every single day you go to the field, like, you're expected to win. Like, every single game means something. And then in Houston, it was like such a different vibe of you win one game in a series and you're happy. And it was like such a different culture to me, because throughout my entire life, like my high school, we were always ranked in the country. Like, we were expected to win. And so, like, the mentality was so much different at that time, because it wasn't like the Astros now, where they've built now like such consistency and a good team year in and year out. But then it was like a tear down and retool, and it was way, way different than I was used to. It was completely eye-opening, and it was, I mean, I definitely, like, I could have handled some things way better than I did. I was
right.
When I was traded there, I was 24. I was a 24-year-old that thought the world existed around me and I knew everything, and the game has a funny way of humbling you and telling you that, like, this game's going to go on with or without you.
There was a little of the young snot-nosed punk in you then.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I was actually funny. I was with my best friend and his family at Disney yesterday, and his daughter was like, I didn't like you at all at first. And I was like, don't worry, you're in the majority of that. There's most of the people, when they knew me, they're younger at first, they didn't like me. And it's just, I didn't handle myself the best, and I can admit that now, being a little bit older and removed from the situation. I wish I would have handled some things differently, but it is what it is at this point.
The main thing, Jordan, is it's not just, okay, you could have handled things differently, you could have acted differently in certain situations, but it's if you keep acting that way and you do nothing to change, where you truly fuck up and you truly make the big mistake. If you learn from some of those situations and you're better for it in the long term and in the future, that's the key to it all.
Yeah, so I think, I mean, even if I would have just handled myself the right way and been a good team guy, and so if I could have played for 12, 13, 14 years, because talent-wise, like, I had all the talent in the world, but I didn't handle myself
between the years. Yep. And up here. Yeah.
Whether being a good teammate, whether it was being a good clubhouse guy, like, I didn't do that part. And for, like, that hurt myself. And now I try to help other kids and learn from my mistakes as they're coming up. And it's hard, because when you're in that situation, you can't see 1 inch in front of your face past that. And you only think about right now. And you think the world revolves around you at that age, and it's tough. But I definitely wish I handled some things differently. It definitely would have prolonged my career by a lot. But we all live and we learn and make mistakes and try to do better.
So I'm going to encapsulate the majority of the rest of your playing days in one portion here, because it was definitely a whirlwind, because again, you were at Houston after getting traded from Atlanta. You actually end up getting dealt back to Atlanta from the Houston Astros in 2012. You end up having a stress fracture in your ankle in the 2013 season, when you actually had a nice run going in 2013. And then that injury hits, where, you had 21 RBIs that year in 2013. And the injury must have just hit at a brutal time, because you're actually starting to gain some traction, right?
So Unfortunately, it always seemed like when I started to get on track mentally, that somehow I always had an injury pop up and kind of derail me a little bit. So that year in 13, we had a really good team. I want to say we were either the one or the maybe the 2 seed that year in the playoffs.
Yep. I think I can remember off the top of my head 12 years ago, that was a good Braves team. Good Braves season.
Yeah,
Yep.
we had Hay, Justin, Ugla, Chris Johnson was on fire that year.
Oh, yeah, I remember that now. Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
Simmons, BJ. So Freddie was
A
still
young
there.
Freddie Freeman,
Yeah, so we were
half Canadian, by the way. Yeah.
at that time. They came to me and said, "Hey, you're going to play every day going forward." BJ was really struggling at that time, and I was playing exceptionally well. And we were in Kansas City. I foul a ball off my ankle, break basically stress fracture, break my ankle. I'm out like 8 weeks, and just coming back from that, like obviously I was out for those couple months. BJ kind of got going a little bit more so then, and it was just kind of like, okay, by the time I got back, it was like,
Yeah, you had the Uptons. That's right. Yep.
Playoffs. So it's like you're not just going to throw somebody right coming back straight into the fire like that. So it kind of derailed. And then the next year in 14, I didn't start off hot. I ended up going to Minnesota, and I finished the year in Minnesota. They're good. But there just wasn't a lot of opportunity in 14 when I went back to Atlanta. And then again in 15, I end up having a MCL in Seattle that basically bangs that whole year. So yeah, it's every single time I kind of got going and got traction, it was all kinds of little injuries here and there, and it's part of the game. But I definitely look back in those times and think about what could have been.
Sorry about that. There we go. Unmute my mic. But yeah, you got designated for assignment. They get claimed off waivers by the Twins. After that, they release you. The Dodgers sign you to a minor league deal. And it was just at that time, you're like that guy looking for work 20 years ago, 30 years ago, George, when there's no internet, there's no really online communication. It was just literally pound the pavement to try to find that next opportunity. There was some of that going on in those latter years for you, right?
Yes. Well, yes and no. So some of it, like when in 15, when I left there, I was so kind of like beat up mentally that I basically wanted to step away from the game at that point. I sat
It had
down.
beaten you down to the point where like I need a break or I've had enough, one of the two. But I need.
Yeah. So I sat down with my dad. I had some options to go after I was DFA'd from Minnesota to go and play the rest of the year somewhere in 15. And I was like, no, I'm taking the rest of the year, which was in retrospect was probably the wrong move. But then in 16, I said, okay, so I told you in the beginning, in high school, I was an All-American pitching and playing outfield. So I said, okay, I'm going to go back and I'm going to pitch. So I signed as the Dodgers as a pitcher. They send me straight to AA the first year. Right on first year, I make the All-Star team pitching. I go to AAA. The next year, I signed with St. Louis to do both, to pitch and play center. So I'm in camp. I'm lights out. Close to before we're gonna break, I'm gonna make the team doing both pitching and like relieving and playing outfield. I end up having Tommy John, and then from there, like I tried to
Unbelievable.
back, and it wasn't the same. So
I noticed that it says I'm reading it here. You signed with the Cardinals 2016 going into 17. You're with them in spring training, and then bam, you need surgery on the left elbow. Like you can't script that shit.
no,
like when it rains, it pours.
Yeah, it was pretty much it was a done deal that I was going to make the team, and I was going to do both. And obviously, now when I say both, I'm not saying Ohtani both.
Yeah, I'm sure some people, as soon as they say hitting, you're going to be Ohtani.
That's we're talking a whole different animal.
Right. Yeah.
I'm going to relieve. I'm going to come in, steal bases, play defense, so on and so forth. Right. but it's almost at that time, like it's almost having like 26 guys on your roster because it's such a utility tool you could use in so many different facets of the game. But yeah, so we weren't far from breaking, and I ended up having TJ. And then from there, like I've rehabbed down in Jupiter and whatnot, and just it never felt right again. So I tried to come back with them. I actually went on a rehab assignment at the end of that year just as a position player, just to get ready for them for the playoffs as a position player. And listen, I don't know if this is how funny the game is mentally. No, I haven't had at bats in a year and a half really, because I spent the year before all pitching only. Then I have a little bit of time hitting in spring training, but then I have TJ. So I go on this rehab assignment to AAA, and I hit like 600 in like a 12 game span. I'm like, is it because I just put pressure on myself this entire time, and now I feel like no pressure because whatever, I'm just getting prepared, and now all of a sudden I hit well. So that's funny how the game is, but like my arm never really felt good coming back, and that was it. Like it was, I tried to go. I signed with San Francisco for a little bit to try, and it didn't feel right, and that was it.
No, it didn't feel right. And I guess that was the time when you were with the Sacramento River Cats. I see in that final season that you played professional baseball, 2018, you know, 5.68 ERA, and you felt like, you know what, it's almost at that time where we've given it our best shot. We've given it our all. We've been in this business, in this sport now for 13 years, since the day you were drafted, at least. Obviously more if you go back to before, but it was time to just say, time to move on, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's just we all reach that point where it's just, hey, it's time, and I tried to work through some of that stuff and the injuries and whatnot. And when I look back on it, I think I should have honestly just kind of put my nose to the dirt and kind of kept on hitting and figured out, okay, like what really is going on. Cause it wasn't skill wise, wasn't, it was like mentally where I didn't handle success well and I didn't handle failure well. And if you don't handle either one well, that's not really a good recipe.
And for longevity, and you just exactly specified that. And so you've been out of it now for probably 6, 7 years, and you found a good place in life. You know, you get married, kids, good life. You're playing golf. You're keeping yourself in good shape. We're both around the same age. You're only a year younger than me, but clearly you're in good spot. So how's life these days for Jordan Schaefer?
It's good, man. I'm married. I have a 4-year-old little girl. Um, Between the two of them, they keep me quite busy. My wife uh, keeps me extremely busy with all her planned trips and whatnot. So yeah, I play golf a bunch. I train another kid that he's actually going to a JUCO right now. Try to help him and just try to help others with life and kind of not make the same mistakes that I make or that I made. Um, and then I do a couple other things on the side. I help with a movement program with assisted living facilities and whatnot. My sister is on the board here in Florida. And then I also work with a company called Bright Meds. And they do a bunch of stuff for like whether it's weight loss or stuff like that. Their big thing right now is TRT therapy. So like testosterone replacement therapy. Just all of us, like, listen, you're about the same age as me. Once we hit 30, our testosterone is going down 1% every year. And you don't feel like you're early 20s anymore. You feel tired and lethargic and so on and so forth. So, I do a bunch of stuff with them, just trying to, like, there's such a bad stigma around like TRT and like, oh, is it bad for you? And it's not like all of us as men like are going through the same thing, whether you're a former athlete or you work at a computer, so on and so forth. We're all doing the same stuff. So it's honestly, I actually had one of my buddies went in, took his blood test, and his was at like 300, and he's been complaining to me for a long time. So we got him situated and whatnot, and it's
Wow.
been huge, not only like physically but mentally. Like you feel like reinvigorated and like yourself again. So it's been awesome.
Good. It's always good to, it's never too early, I should say, in life to take care of yourself physically and take care of your health. There's no doubt about that, especially these days where I see, people are getting stricken with diseases at younger ages, like maybe like never before. So it's very important, you're right, to take care of yourself and always leave time to take care of yourself these days from a health standpoint. That's a great synopsis of Jordan, of your career overall and how things are going right now. I know our viewers and listeners, they always tune in every day to hear us talk sports on this show. So we're going to do that right now. I know you're still a big sports fan. Now you are. You did say that, initially you just needed to break away when you stopped playing, but certainly, you're involved, you like following sports, baseball, football, basketball, primarily. So, we're on the baseball topic. So, we'll start there. And I'll just throw this out at you. It's already looking like MLB is exploring automated balls and strikes as early as next year for the 2026 season. And I'll say this. There's a part of me that's that older generation sports fan, Jordan, that says the fact we're diminishing the role of the human umpire, especially the human home plate umpire, is a little bit upsetting to me because it's been such a staple and fabric of baseball. Is just you got your home plate umpire, calls all the balls and strikes, but now you're taking his power away, and now teams are going to be able, maybe as early as next year, to challenge a ball or a strike call. And obviously at that point in time, if they realize that, hey, it was a strike and the umpire called it a ball, they're going to be able to overturn the call. But at the same time, I've also watched a lot of baseball. Either the home plate umpires are getting worse, or I don't know what it is, but that's my guess, Jordan. They're getting fucking worse. I have seen some awful strike zones. I've seen pitches way upstairs called a strike. I've seen pitches right in the middle of the zone called a ball. Like, I've never seen home plate umpiring league wide as horrific as I've seen it the last few years. It's like everyone's developed the Angel Hernandez strike zone here, and he's been historically known for just having a bad strike zone. CB Buckner's not that great either, if you ask me, as far as strike zone is concerned and accuracy. And now they've got all these sites that they can actually chart the performance of every home plate umpire, how accurate they were calling balls and strikes in every game. So the secret's out. They can't hide anything. People are going to be aware of how accurate these home plate umpires are calling balls and strikes. But Jordan, I'll just say it. This is my opinion. Some people may disagree. I've never seen it this bad as far as bad calls, bad strike calls, bad ball calls, you name it, across the league. And I think I'm at the point where, even as a traditionalist that loves the idea of the human element, it's almost a move that you almost have to make to try to get an automated system in there.
Yeah, so there's a lot there to unpack. So first and foremost, I am very much a traditionalist. I can't stand the bigger bases. I can't stand that both leagues have a DH.
Yeah, I don't like that. I miss the pitcher being able to hit at National League games. Yep.
Managers off the hook. There's not any strategy behind
Strategy's gone, 100%. Yeah. Yep. That's the biggest influence of that. Yep.
Would have to pay attention in the NL to, okay, we're going to double switch. Where's the pitcher spot come in? Like, you actually had to manage a game, where now it's just like, let's go, like, take them in and out. And then it's, but on your point, I will say this. When we're players and we stink, we either get demoted, released, let go for an umpire. There is no such thing. You keep your job. So really, besides the embarrassment of the website posting that you stink, your job is never in jeopardy. So if we had, like, okay, out of the umpires, the 10 worst umpires, you're getting booted to the minor leagues next year. We're bringing up 10 new guys, and next year 10 worse. I feel like there would be more incentives, because right now it's, if you piss a guy off, he's gonna get back at you. It's just, let's just be honest, it is the way it is. Like, if you show an umpire up, he's gonna, okay, I got you, and he's gonna come and he's gonna intentionally take it out on you, whether it's right or wrong.
And yet there's some instances, Jordan, where just recently some guy it was Taylor Walls, I think, for the Tampa Bay Rays. What's he do? He taps his helmet, thinking, what was that? And he's gone. He's ejected for tapping his head I mean, that's totally absurd. I
But
mean, it's just,
I think in the minor leagues, can't you tap your head for like a review?
I
So
think so. Yeah.
maybe he's accustomed or something along those lines. But like, say even I want to see it called the right way. Even yesterday, I'm watching Sinner and Alcaraz, and Alcaraz hits a serve and it's way out.
Unbelievable match, by the way. Incredible.
Phenomenal. And Alcaraz hits a serve and it's way out. But why only at Roland Garros do they not use the electronic system? When if you can get it right, get it right. Like every
Correct.
other uses electronic system. So now we're just going to go off the human eye. He knows it's out. Like that's a huge change in the match right there. So I love the umpire part of it in baseball, but if you can get it right without making the games 4 hours long, I would rather just get it right, especially when it comes to playoff time. And you don't want. I mean, look at the Galarraga situation. What 12, 15 years ago?
Yeah.
Like Joyce, like he should have a perfect game. Like
We should have been able to change that call, get it right.
100%.
And poor Jim Joyce got raked over the coals for that, and it was just a tough situation all around.
Yeah. So I'm very much a traditionalist with the game, but I also think that like if it's not going to slow down the game like by a huge time frame, like let's get it right. Maybe you only implement it for the playoffs where you could do it. I don't really know, but I would hate to see like a playoff game come down to kind of like how the Roland Garros yesterday came down to like that's a huge pivotal point in the match, and you could have very like you did the Hawkeye and you saw it was out, but you still kept it was in. Like just no.
And it was a pivotal point. And Yannick Sinner was not thrilled, at that moment in time.
And he shouldn't be. Like, first of all, he hasn't played he's had a 3-month suspension, so he's not really in any shape to be playing a 5-setter. And it's just, if we can get it right, let's get it right.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I do, even the clock, I'm getting used to it, the pitch clock. Like I say, I'm coming from back in the day when there was no pitch clock. Pitcher could always just have the time that they needed to get the next pitch ready and, have the catcher get the signal in and throw that next pitch. Now you got to have that. But at the same point in time, Jordan, pace of play was a real fucking issue in this sport. Like some of these games, man, million trips to the mound for managers to change a pitcher or converse with their pitcher. And you're seeing 9-inning games, especially these teams for years like the Yankees, and patient lineups that work the count, and 9-inning games were going over 4 hours. You can't have that. You got to try to speed that up.
If your working counts and games are long, that's a part of the baseball. I'm cool with it.
Yeah.
When guys are drawing initials in the sand and pimping home runs, they're basically walking to first base, and that's the kind of stuff like I have a hard time with. There's some players now in the game that are so crazy talented, and it's just I feel like it's a bad example for the younger generation watching, because kids should be watching the game on how to play the game and how to learn, and instead all they pay attention of what kind of shoes this guy has on. Did you see his bat flip? Like it's just the game, and now it's filtered into youth baseball and youth sports in general, where it's bad for the game. Just my personal opinion.
A lot of attention seeking. Yep.
Yeah. So I'm okay. Like, listen, if a guy's sitting there grinding, if like, hey, their bullpen's not the best, we're going to grind out at bats and get this guy out after 5. So we're like intentionally trying to work at bats. Like, okay, like the game's longer for that, so be it. But like the other stuff, it's a bit much. It's hard to watch.
Yeah, I think definitely there's some truth to that. All right, I'm going to throw it. Well, Jordan can chime in if he wants to, but just here we go. We'll get FanDuel up there on the screen. This is the Monday night MLB card. We'll just blaze through, because of those of you that are watching this show maybe Tuesday, Wednesday, later in the week, this will be irrelevant to you. But just want to throw out there, Pittsburgh Pirates starting to play well. The last, they had a great series over the weekend over the Phillies. and so they might be worth a look tonight against Miami. They're starting to hit the ball a bit. I thought the Cleveland Guardians were a little bit, they're minus 158. You see the price there in that game tonight. I think there might be a little bit too expensive of a favorite there, quite honestly, in that game. I'll tell you what side that I do really like here. It's the Chicago Cubs. The Phillies have really hit struggles the last few weeks. They've got Bryce Harper's banged up, haven't been hitting as much. The bullpen's been a disaster for the Phillies during this run. Cubs are playing good ball. The Phillies have just had a really rough week to 10 days. Baseball's cyclical, Jordan. You know that. It's 162 games. You're going to have a streak where you're 8-1, and you're going to have a streak where you're 1-8. And the Phillies are going through their rough patch right now.
Question: do the Pirates keep Skeens?
That's the good. I think, Jordan, they got to show signs of progress as an organization, and showing that you're getting better, showing that you're getting closer to contention for at least making the playoffs. If you're going to keep him there long term, that's my opinion on it.
Yeah, that's a tough one to decide.
Or are you just going to be the fucking Pittsburgh Pirates and languish in ineptitude as you have for the last 20 or 30 years? You haven't been any good since Jim Leland was the damn manager there in '92 when he took you to the NLCS and the Atlanta Braves broke their heart in Game 7.
You could get a ton form now and kind of reset.
Yeah.
Also, those kind of guys don't come around very often.
Yeah. Let me throw this at you. Tampa Bay, Boston. I've talked about this as an interesting betting angle, Jordan. Team coming off Sunday Night Baseball and having to travel without a day off. Is that a significant negative for that team? In this case, it's Boston. They played last night, Yankees against the Yankees at Yankee Stadium, Sunday Night Baseball. And I know it's short travel. And in a lot of other instances, it's much longer travel and a much longer distance for a team playing Sunday Night Baseball and having to travel and play Monday night for their next game. At least this is shorter travel, but to me, it's still a negative. And more often than not, Jordan, I find myself betting against these teams that played on Sunday Night Baseball and have to play the very next night with travel. And I find more often than not, the results have been profitable, at least for me over the years. Do you co-sign that?
So I would definitely co-sign that. Travel is travel, especially if by the time you get out of there, it's not till midnight. So you're not getting, either short travel or not, you're not getting really to sleep till 2, 3 a.m. Also, the other thing I would look for is the change in time zones. When teams
Correct. Could not agree more. That's even bigger. Yeah. So that helps to explain why I'm on Tampa Bay Rays tonight against the Boston Red Sox. And plus Brian Bayo for the Red Sox has been kind of a mess this year, all over the map. Boston playing last night. Tampa's actually starting to play better baseball and hit the ball pretty well lately. So I think with Boz and the Rays, they can get it done. Your Atlanta Braves, I don't buy them being a big road favorite. I shouldn't say your Atlanta Braves because it's a long time. I don't know if you cheer for them now. It shouldn't act like it. But Chris Sale is, look, that's the reason they're minus 150 road favorite tonight. Chris Sale's on the mound. But they have a terrible road record this year. Like 10-22, I think, is the Atlanta road record this year. And they're laying a big price on the road, and Milwaukee's actually played pretty good ball the last month. Savali, their pitcher tonight's been up and down. I think as a home underdog plus 130, I'd only look at the Brewers there. I like runs to be scored with the Blue Jays game against the Cardinals. Both teams are hitting right now. Toronto's been on a great run. Barrios and Palante is the pitching matchup there. So there's a few baseball picks for you for Monday night that I'm interested in. But what do you think about the Braves right now? They've obviously had that brutal start, kind of dug themselves a huge hole, the Atlanta Braves. They played a little bit better since then, but still they got a lot of work, and they're in a tough division, right? That NL East, they're just so far behind the Mets and the Phillies right now. What can they do to get back in it?
That division's tough with the Phillies and the Mets, because you figure, the Phillies are going to find their footing. And I will tell you this, like, the Phillies and the Mets both compete their nuts off when it comes playoff time. Like, they have guys on there that absolutely grind, whether it's Harper, Lindor. Like, they're not just really good players. Like, they grind and compete. And in the playoff time, like, those guys are hard to come around.
As far as the Mets, they're a good team, even in spite of Juan Soto not having a great first half, not having a great beginning to his Mets, although he's starting to hit a little bit better lately for the New York Mets. But, the Mets, welcome to New York, Juan Soto. Hey, you're the one that signed there. You're the one that got all the big fucking money. Get used to what you're going to get. If you're not going to hustle down the first baseline, which he's done on a couple of occasions this year, you're going to hear it. You're going to hear it from the fan base there. And that was an issue for him. And, a couple of those games a few weeks ago. But what do you think of what's been going on there with Soto here in his first year with the Mets?
I mean, guys coming off when they sign stuff like that, they tend to press and whatnot. He's too good of a player I mean, he's an exceptionally good player. Like the hustle stuff,
I would argue Jordan an exceptionally good hitter. I think defensively he's spotty.
I will give you.
There's faster base runners than him. He's not great defensively, not from what I've seen, but he is an exceptionally good hitter when he's feeling it. There's no doubt.
And that's what he's another guy there that when it's playoff time, like he's going to lock in and grind. And you saw last year with the Yankees. It was phenomenal. But if you don't hustle New York, listen, my wife's dad is from New York. Every other word is F this, F that. Like you're going to know how you feel. And that's part of playing in New York, but he's too good to keep struggling, and he'll find his footing and he'll be lights out.
All right, let's turn to some NBA because we got the finals going on right now with Indiana and Oklahoma City. Do you know that you may not know this, but Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the NBA MVP for this season, he's from my hometown. You see that right there, Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. He is right from my hometown. I've got big futures on Oklahoma City to win the championship, and I placed them back in October. I didn't just jump on it, when I saw the season. I looked at it going into this season, Jordan, saying this team came up short in the second round last year. Sam Presti is a magician as a general manager, bringing in Isaiah Hartenstein, Alex Caruso to make them a better defensive team. Caruso's just such a glue guy too, because not only is he a great defender on the perimeter, he can make 3-point shots for you. He's got some toughness. He's going to battle for those, when the ball's lying on the court, he's going to be one of the players that dives into the pile and tries to get it. That's what you get out of Caruso.
I think they got a lot of guys like that though. Like Hartenstein does that, Dort does that. Like number one, they're defensively, they are really good, but I mean, think of a guy like Chet Holmgren. He was the number 2 overall pick, and he's their third best player. I mean, and no, listen, he's a really good player, but they don't need him to put up 20 to be successful. I mean, Shai can get his at any time. Honestly, Indiana should be super grateful for
that they're 1-1 because it was a 7-minute sleep there at the end of game 1 for Oklahoma City that cost them. In a game they were trolling before that. Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if the series is done in 5. It's just OKC is a far, far better team. And maybe Indiana can win in one of these 2 games at home or whatnot, but OKC is a far better team.
I think so too on paper. But the one thing I'll say about Indiana is they get a lot of different contributors nightly. And they can always get red hot from 3. In fact, that's when they've really made a lot of their comebacks. Game 1 against Oklahoma City in the finals. Game 1 against New York, that unbelievable comeback in the Eastern Conference finals. They just got red hot. And basically that game, Jordan, was New York had to do every single thing wrong to fuck it up, and they did. And Indiana had to do every single thing right to come all the way back the way they did, down 14 with 2 minutes left and win it. And they did.
They did the same thing against Cleveland the round before.
That's right. Yeah.
They've had one of those games every series where it's now. Listen, they're going to fight. So if they're down 20 going to the 4th, they're not especially in the NBA nowadays. Teams aren't out when they're down 20. They're somehow I don't quite understand, but when a team's down 20, they make runs and make it close. But OKC is so good defensively, and that's okay. Your shots aren't falling, but they put so much in their ball pressure is elite, and it's a tough ask. I mean, Indiana is getting the most out of the talent that they have, where OKC does not have to play their A game, and still are going to win.
Yeah, it's I know Indiana's really got to be playing at a high level, not turning it over, which has been a big issue for Indiana in this series. They've had a lot of turnover issues. In Oklahoma City turned up the defensive screws in game 2, winning that game last night. The one consolation for Indiana is like one night it can be Siakam, one night it can be Halliburton. They've got so many difference makers going for them. Nembhard, I mean, for Canadian, I'm so proud of the way Canada's getting better in basketball to have 4 Canadians in the NBA Finals. You've got SGA and Lou Dort for OKC, both Canadian. You've got Andrew Nembhard and Ben Mathurin for Indiana, both Canadians. So I love seeing that. I'm kind of with you, though, Jordan. I think Oklahoma City will show superiority as the series goes on. But it's still tricky because they get into those little lapses every now and then where, Oklahoma City not falls asleep, but, they start to force things a little bit. Like Indiana gets red hot from 3, which they're very capable of. And the Indiana Pacers play 48 minutes of basketball. And I think they have a coaching edge. What's your thought on? I just think I'd prefer, I would take Rick Carlisle as my head coach over Mark Daigneault. And I'm not trying to spew venom toward Mark Daigneault, but I find he's got a phenomenal roster. All these guys are blue chip young players. They're going to be great in the NBA for a long time. And he's got that at his disposal. I think Rick Carlisle's had to mold a team that's maybe less than what Oklahoma City has. And of course, he's got the ring with Dallas with the Dirk Nowitzki days way back when. Carlisle does give them a coaching advantage. And boy, if Indiana's going to win this series, Jordan, they're going to need every ounce of that Rick Carlisle acumen and expertise to overcome this Thunder team.
Yeah, Carlisle was there back, 2030 with Reggie Miller, right? He's a champion. I will say I definitely think that Indiana gets the most out of their roster.
Yeah.
Because they are not nearly as talented as OKC. I think if you line up and you're picking just player from player, you're going to take 2 or 3 guys before you take one of Indiana's guys. And if you're taking 10 guys overall, you're probably taking 7 of the 10 from OKC. Like there's a lot there that he's getting out of that roster that, he's doing for them to even be in the finals, honestly, is amazing. Now obviously, like, you didn't have to go through Boston with the Tatum injury and whatnot. That would have been a good challenge for them, but he does a phenomenal job there.
No doubt he has, and he's done and especially because, look, the regular season, they were up and down. Like they were an afterthought in the Eastern Conference, let alone the whole NBA in the playoffs when it started. Everyone liked Boston and New York and even Milwaukee and other teams ahead of Indiana going into the playoffs.
I think I saw a stat from like January 1. They were the best team in the NBA from J1 on. And they've played phenomenal. If they can hit threes, going back to like that New York series, I think they killed New York early on because I think Tibbs was only playing 7 guys. They were getting worn out, and Indiana was basically playing fast break basketball. As soon as they got the ball, they were out. And playing 7 guys, it was like Indiana's starters played like 800 less minutes in the series than New York starters. So you get, especially in a 7-game series, you're going to get worn out.
Yeah, no question. There's definitely some truth to that. I know you like golf. You're golfing these days. We've got another major coming up this weekend, the United States Open, a Father's Day tradition because it's always on Father's Day weekend. And more often than not, I do spend some time with my pops on a Sunday. And what are we doing on a lot of these Sundays? We're watching the final round of the U.S. Open. Golf, because it's always on that Father's Day Sunday. So great time to talk a little about that as far as it goes. It's always great, when you've got so many of these big time golfers that have the chance, obviously, to win the event. So we'll pop up the current odds as far as this tournament is concerned. Let me make sure if I can get it. There we go. Get it a little bit bigger there on the screen. But look at that. You want to bet on Scotty Scheffler, Jordan, plus 280. I can't say that's any value, but we know he's very capable of just dominating once again, as he so often has in not only past majors, but past PGA events. Right behind him is Bryson DeChambeau, plus 700. Rory at 11-1. You got to wonder if he was looking ahead to the U.S. Open with how awful he was in my home country here this past weekend in the Canadian Open. He didn't even get out of, he didn't even, well, he did make the cut, but he was way back wasn't even in contention or close. Rahm, 12-1. Xander Schauffele, 22-1. Colin Morikawa, 25-1. Ludvig Åberg, there's big expectations that he could be a major champion in the future from Sweden, 25-1. Joaquin Niemann, 30-1. Tommy Fleetwood Mac, as I like to call him, 40-1. Justin Thomas, 40. Tyrrell Hatton, 50. The Irish Bear, Shane Lowry, 50-1. Can't lay. Yeah, I can't lay any money on Patrick. That's what I always say, because I just find he doesn't have the right frame of mind to handle the pressure of a major championship. And until that changes, it's very, very difficult to back him. So your early thoughts, Jordan, on the U.S. Open this week? Is there someone maybe I didn't mention that might be someone that slides under the radar and makes some noise here in this event? Because I look at some of these, I look at Jake Knapp. Jake Knapp to me seems someone that could be down the road pretty good. Now, I know he's 31. He's not a young guy, but he's a late bloomer. But your thoughts on the U.S. Open coming up?
So, number one, do you have the lines there of players to miss the cut?
I can bring that up. No problem at all doing that. To miss the cut, I will mention that right now. Who do you have in mind to miss the cut?
What is Rory to miss the cut?
You're going to get a good price on that, Jordan. You're going to get a really good price on that as far as Rory McIlroy to miss the cut. I'm just going to scroll down. You talk about why you think he's going to miss the cut. I'll give you the price in just a moment.
So he missed the cut last week at RBC.
Yep.
The other tournaments that he has played in, I think
FanDuel has him plus 235, to miss the cut.
Okay. When you have such a big goal out there that you're trying to achieve and you finally achieve it, I think for me it's looked like mentally he has not been there. I think especially in this circumstance, the next major is in basically his home city. So he's very much looking forward to that. And it's looked like last week he looked lost. The tournament he played before that, he looked lost. Or the major before that. So
yeah, the PGA Championship. Yeah.
Yes. So, and I think RBC he was lost last week. For me, I think plus 235. I think it's out. I think there's a good chance. As far as guys to win this week, if you've seen the rough, you better take guys that.
This is Oakmont Country Club, by the way, Oakmont, Pennsylvania, when they've been there before for this U.S. Open. Yep.
Yeah, you better take guys that are going to hit fairways, because if you get in that rough, you better be Bryson and be able to muscle the ball out of there, or you better hit a whole lot of fairways, because if you get in that, like, you're basically just hoping to get the ball out of there. You're not really advancing the ball or actually having any kind of shot to advance the ball. I like Joaquin Niemann. Not a lot of people pay attention because he plays on LIV.
Yeah.
So you don't get to see him really week in and week out, but he's somebody I could definitely see winning.
It's a shame we don't have all the golfers under one umbrella anymore, but that's just me. That's just how I feel.
It is. It needs to get straightened out.
Work it out. We can. Remember the Beatles song? We can work it out. We can work it out. Come on, guys.
Yeah.
Work it out. It's better for the sport, better for fans.
Yeah. The Bryson and Rahms and Brooks and all those guys, Joaquin back, being able to compete. Because now listen, I want to see those guys go up against Scotty or Rory as much as possible. Or like Ludvig coming up, even though Ludvig hasn't really played up to his standard, I would say, this year so far. Find someone that's going to hit a whole lot of fairways this week would be my suggestion. Not necessarily is going to bomb it, but He's going to hit fairways, and he has really good wedge play. So that would kind
There
of
you
be.
go. I like that.
But if I had to pick one like sneaky guy, I would
Joaquin.
say Joaquin Neiman. If I had to play, which it looks like I'm going to have to dig in there, I'm going to take Rory to miss the cut.
No doubt. And to be honest with you, Jordan, I watch all the majors with golf. I watch many of the non-majors when I can. You know, I'm not busy or other things are, tying up my time. But I am not the in-depth golf handicapper and better that I am the other sports. So I bet it. I do bet it every tournament pretty much. But I rely on a lot of other people for sounding board.
I'm going to give you a little sneak advice here in golf.
Yes, sure.
Don't bet the first day. Go in there and you'll have golf head-to-head matchups, not with a draw, but just straight head-to-head. Go and look the previous day what those two golfers did. The golfer that shot worse, take that golfer on the second day. And
You expect the pendulum to swing. Yes.
From my experience, it's about 75% that the golfer that did worse will do better that second day.
Yeah. I get it conceptually, Jordan, why that makes sense. Definitely. Because there's variance in that sport. The wind changes. You're teeing off in the morning on the first day and you're teeing off later in the day in the afternoon on the second day or vice versa. And that can sometimes impact your performance, and playing conditions can change. So, and everyone reacts to different playing conditions, either better or worse. So you're right. A lot of variables can obviously mean that the results for one golfer in one round are not necessarily a sign of something that's going to continue the next round or the next day. There's no question about that. All right, before we wrap it up, because we want to try to keep this show, this probably will not be the last time you see Jordan, though. And if it's up to me, it won't be, because this has been just an awesome conversation about sports. We got to talk football, right? It's still the king, NFL and college football.
Before you get to football, are you an Edmonton guy?
Hamilton. Hamilton, Ontario. That's an hour west of Toronto. Oh, you're talking about the hockey. You talking about the hockey?
I am.
Stanley Cup final? Yeah, well, first of all, I picked Edmonton in the series. I bet Edmonton in the series. And it's not because I want Canada to win their first Stanley Cup. It's not that nonsense. That's the people that say that Ian Cameron's picking Edmonton to win the Stanley Cup because he's Canadian and he wants Canada to end the drought, 32 years without a Stanley Cup. That's a bunch of nonsense. This to me is about, I think, in this series with the best player in the world, Connor McDavid, someone that you got to learn to lose before you learn how to win. And when you see that Amazon documentary last year, and he's crying his eyes out in the dressing room after they lost Game 7 to Florida last year, and you see how he's, that's not good enough. Dig in right the fuck now. And he's like losing it. He wants this so badly. And to me right now, he is the best player in the NHL. And he has played, especially in the last few games, at a level that almost like he can't be denied. Now, it was a tough loss in Game 2, but they could have easily been up 2-0 in the series. Now they're tied 1-1. And the reason I also went with Edmonton, because it's not easy to pick against Florida. They are that good. 3 years in a row in the Stanley Cup final and looking for back-to-back Stanley Cup championships. But sometimes you got to use a little intuition and history as a handicapper. As much as you can break down every stat, every trend, matchups, offense versus defense, power play versus penalty kill, 4 lines of depth, how did the 6D measure up, the goaltending. As much as you can do all that handicapping work and research, Jordan, sometimes you got to rely on some research and some history. And I can't get over the fact that Wayne Gretzky, at the time, the best player in the NHL, lost his first chance at the Stanley Cup in the final to the New York Islanders with the Edmonton Oilers in 1983. Do you know what he did the next year? He got a chance to face the New York Islanders again in the Stanley Cup final in 84, and he won it. And the Oilers won it that time. Sidney Crosby, at the time the best player in the world, 2008. Pittsburgh Penguins, his first appearance in the Stanley Cup final. Lost to the Detroit Red Wings, somehow was able to get back there the next year and against the same damn team, the Detroit Red Wings, 2009, and he won it. in 2009 after losing to the same team the year before. The parallels with Gretzky and Crosby losing in their first Stanley Cup final and winning the very next year against the same team they lost to, the parallels with Crosby and Gretzky are almost too similar with Connor McDavid, who right now is the best player in the world, that it's almost like it's written in the stars, Jordan. Like it's meant to be that Connor McDavid learns from last year, and just like Gretzky before him, and just like Crosby before him, wins the Stanley Cup the year later against the same team he lost to the year before.
I could say it. It's funny because this series could be 2-0 either way.
Yep.
And so it's 1-1. It's good because it could have been Florida won both games. It could have been very easily that.
I was hesitant to bring hockey up with you because I wasn't sure if you were a hockey guy, but I love that you brought it up. I love it.
My wife to the opener at in DC against the Caps last year. We were in DC, and she didn't know what to expect, but obviously in person it's much different than watching on TV, and she loved it.
It's a great sport. It's the nobody to me from a pain threshold standpoint tougher physically than hockey.
Yeah.
I mean, lose teeth, puck in the face, puck in the jaw, your head slammed against the boards, and they'll do everything in their power to just get stitched up, come back, and not miss a shift. It's just unbelievable the shit they go through physically and the pain threshold in hockey. It's just spectacular. Football wise, look, we got a long way to go, so we'll keep this brief about the football. But there are a couple things I want to throw to you. What do you think of Aaron Rodgers being with the Pittsburgh Steelers now, signing him in the offseason? Does that move the needle at all? To me, it really doesn't. This is still probably going to be a team that they'll do their typical Mike Tomlin experience, flirt around 500, barely above 500, maybe get into the playoffs and lose in the first playoff game. That's been the Pittsburgh Steelers' way, the last several years. And I remember seeing your Twitter months ago talking about the great comparisons from a quarterback standpoint. And I remember you being very vehement that don't you dare put Patrick Mahomes ahead of Tom Brady right now. Don't you dare do it. And certainly, look, I think here's where I stand on that. I think from a pure talent standpoint, athleticism, the things he can do with the football, throwing it, different arm angles, and just, he can throw sidearm on the move. And Brady can't do any of that. Couldn't really do any of that. I think there's a lot of elements of Mahomes' game that you could say just from a pure skill, talent standpoint, better than Brady. But the pedigree and the winning and the clutch of Tom Brady can't be underestimated. And at the end of the day, we just saw Mahomes get absolutely destroyed in the Super Bowl by the Philadelphia Eagles, and not even Tom Brady suffered a loss that bad. So from that standpoint, I get the people saying, well, we're not ready to crown Mahomes as the greatest quarterback ever yet, not after a loss like that, and not when his career's done. And I don't want to go that route yet either, Jordan, simply because can we not let the guy finish his career first? Can we not re-examine this and reevaluate this discussion, Jordan, in 10, 15 years, whenever Patrick Mahomes calls it a career? Why in 2025, when this guy is just now entering the prime of his career, do we have to make these comparisons of whether he's better than Brady or not? Can we not wait? Can we just let the career play out first before we go down that rabbit hole? That's where I stand on it.
So to unpack, listen, I'm a big Mike Tomlin fan. I think he is a phenomenal coach. I got a couple buddies that have played for him that I play golf with, and they say the same thing. I think Rodgers is a huge upgrade to what they've had. I don't know. That division's rough. I mean, Baltimore, if Cincinnati learns how to play a half a lick of defense, their offense is going to score a bazillion points.
Which they couldn't. I loved hammering their games over the total last year, Jordan, for that reason. They couldn't stop anybody.
The Browns are the Browns. But between Baltimore and Cincy, that's a tough road. And then, man, you got me on a heated subject over here, the Mahomes Brady thing. Now, don't forget that Brady's Bucks also destroyed Mahomes too. So for me, listen, if we're just going off of talent-wise,
athleticism, mobility, all those things, yeah. Mahomes, yes, yeah.
And also, if you just want to go off of that, you would say, Well, Josh Allen throws the ball farther, harder, is bigger, runs faster. So if we're just doing athletic wise, like, and nobody in today's game is going to say like, well, I'm going to take Josh Allen ahead of Mahomes because Mahomes is one. But if we're talking athletic wise, like since basically like John Elway, have we seen a Josh Allen that's basically like someone that big, that fast, that can throw the ball that far and hard? Like, so when it comes to, I think nowadays we get so caught up, and we did this like when the LeBron to Jordan thing, or when the next great guy comes out, we want to automatically compare him to the greatest player to ever live. And it's just like, let these players be their own player. And at the end of their career, then let's size them up and see. But we get so early in like, now listen, if Ohtani keeps on doing what Ohtani does and he comes back and pitches, damn it, it's going to be hard for him not to be the greatest player ever. It's going to be hard. But like,
we just don't need to jump to those discussions, Jordan, when the guys could play for another 10 or 15 years. We don't need to jump to those discussions right now.
We're automatically assuming that Mahomes is going to be in an AFC championship game for the next 10 years, or that he's going to get to 7 more Super Bowls or whatever. Like, let's slow our roll. Let's let it play out. And listen, by the end of it, maybe Mahomes wins 7 Super Bowls, and then we can have that discussion. But we got people like Burrow or Lamar or Josh Allen that they haven't won one. It's not like it's that easy to do. And not only that is
Patrick Mahomes been blocking their road and blocking their pathway all these years. Yeah.
Like Andy Reid's not going to be around that much longer. Yeah. Kelsey is not going to be around that much longer. Like, when you lose those two, you lose a lot. And so can Mahomes do it when they're not there against Lamar? And no, listen, I have no idea how Baltimore didn't win last year. I thought Baltimore was prime set up to get to the Super Bowl last year. But can they keep that going? It's hard. I mean, they've been consistent this far, but there's a lot of things that have to go your way. You have to stay healthy. It's just, football's a game that, I mean, you have a couple of injuries and your season's pretty much done.
Jordan, we've arrived at June, which means it's that time of year when I begin work on my NFL and college football season win totals and futures betting report. I've been doing it for 10 years. I send it out to people. I think actually you're on some of these email lists of mine, so you may already see it and be aware of all this stuff. But it's basically a 2-3 month process. I'm already into it with trying to figure out, okay, who's rebuilding, coaching changes, coordinator changes, offensive system changes, player personnel groupings, position group changes. Obviously, quarterback matters a lot, and even more so in college football, roster turnover, new systems, new coaches. Where even in college football compared to NFL, the learning curve is that much steeper and that much greater. But usually there's some good bets that come about in that. So I'm putting in the work for that. And plus, starting my work, Jordan, in late May, early June for football season means that I'm ready to hit the ground running in August, September when it gets going for real. Like, I'm ready. I feel I know the teams. I've done the work. I've put in the research, and I'm ready to profit from it. So that's always the goal, right? Proper preparation prevents poor performance. It's an old saying. It's kind of true, in my opinion. So that's why we get ahead of it and we start working on the football season ahead right now. So I will ask, it's too early. You're very early before we even hit training camp, which is in a month and a half from now. You're early Super Bowl champion for next year, but I'd love to hear it. Who would you go with as of right now?
I'll go on a limb. I'm going to say the Super Bowl is going to be the Ravens and the Eagles.
All bird Super Bowl. There you go. Ravens and Eagles. Yeah. With who winning it?
I think Baltimore finally gets it done.
Lamar and company finally get it done. And look, they've suffered from, well, he's obviously lost to Allen now a couple. See, with Allen, he's getting blocked by only Mahomes. Jackson's getting blocked by both Mahomes and Allen. He's got to beat Allen too now in one of these games. Yeah, so he's got 2 quarterbacks that have been gumming up the works for him. Yeah.
Well, and if Cincinnati gets a defense, they'll be right there because they're going to score a ton of points.
Yes.
That Super Bowl prediction hurts me because grew up, Saquon's my buddy, and I trained with him, and while he was getting prepped for the draft and whatnot, and I was super happy to see him have his success. So,
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, it seems like a great guy too. Yeah.
But I think Baltimore finally gets it done.
Baltimore, you heard it here first, and we'll give Jordan Schaefer all the praise in February if that comes to fruition. We get a Ravens Eagles. I'll remember this honestly. I've written it down. Ravens versus Eagles with Ravens winning it. And if that indeed happens, Jordan, you're going to get some praise on this show. There's no question. Sprinkle the exacta, like the horse racing term. Ravens versus Eagles Super Bowl right now. And just before we wrap it up, because we'll have plenty more shows to go into more stuff, but the NIL, like it or no, do you like the direction college football is going in with NIL stuff? Not just football, but basketball. I mean, it has completely taken over both sports. The purity of college sports is kind of gone from back in the day when it was just, now you're seeing everybody getting paid and NIL deals. And now you got the player doesn't get the amount of money that they were promised by a school. They transfer out, they sue the school. I mean, you're seeing it. It's just a completely different beast from the college sports, college football and basketball that I grew up watching.
I think it was really bad before, where the NCAA was almost like the mafia using, abusing players. And now I think it's went completely the other way, where now the players are using, abusing, and they're taking advantage. Like, if you go to a school, you should either only be able to transfer one time, or if you do transfer, you have to sit out a year. Like back in the day, you had to sit out a year, but you can't just say, for instance, Jeremiah Smith probably would have been the number one receiver coming out this year in the draft as a freshman. Say, I think I saw he's getting like $4 million from Ohio State. What's to say that Texas isn't going to be like, hey, I'm going to give you 5 this year, your sophomore year, and then next year Oregon's not going to come and say, hey, we'll give you 6 this year. Like, you can't have a kid going to a different school every single year. Like, there has to be some kind of boundaries. I love the fact that the schools can't just say, hey, we're going to use and abuse you and make money off of you. You can at least make something for yourself. But there has to be some kind of guardrails on it, where it's, guys can't just, oh, well, we were only predicted to win 2 games and we've won 4, so now I need more money or I'm transferring. Like,
or I'm not starting right away, I'm out of here. That's another thing that's happening a lot, especially with the quarterbacks. I think I'm starting. I'm not. All of a sudden, I'm transferring out and going somewhere where I will be playing.
Yeah.
Instead of just biding your time, learning the system, being patient, learning from the guy that's starting ahead of you, and just waiting for your chance. Those days are over. And same with especially over to basketball, where the days of college programs and college teams keeping the same core together for 3-4 years in a row. I mean, those days are done for the most part. They're over.
You're going to have guys. It's basically college free agency at this point. You go wherever you want to go, and I don't think it's very good for the game. You're going to have, I mean, if we're being honest, you're going to have the same teams at the end of the year in college football every year. You're going to have your Texas, your Bamas, your Georgias, Ohio States. Like, yeah, it's a nice story, the Boise and the Arizona States, but you see like kind of what happens in those
There's
games.
a ceiling to how far they can go,
Yeah, you're not going to be able to compete when one team has a $25 million roster and you're spending $1 million. Like, it's just, there's only so much you can do.
That well said, and that's the truth of it. At the end of the day, no question. All right, quickly, and then we'll wrap up on this. College football national champion. You're way too early if you had to make one. I won't say they're going to win the title, but I'll throw out bounce back because I believe in this coach. I think it was just a bit of a tough year. You're taking over for an all-timer in Nick Saban. I'm not out on Kalen DeBoer. I think that guy can friggin' coach. I think Alabama can bounce back next year. I'm not saying they're going to win the championship, but I believe in him as a coach. It didn't go well in the first year. Look what he did at Washington with Penix there. Great job there with the Huskies with that program. I think Alabama will be better. But what do you think for college football? Your early national champ.
I think it's hard to come after Saban.
You think he was that big of a factor in all the success? Yeah.
About 10 to 12 buddies that played for Saban, and they all say it's different. It's just
fair. And you've got people that are inside there and know. So
going back,
respect that.
I think that's why he ended up piecing out, is with the NIL thing, it was much harder to get guys to buy in, because if you can't get in guys' tail anymore, it's like, oh, okay, I'm just gonna leave. Like,
Yep.
so it's. But if I had to pick someone, I'm gonna go with Texas early on.
Arch Manning era begins. Yes.
Yeah, I think there will be uber talented. I think it's time for them to take that step. I wish they would have used Arch last year more in that game. I think the fact of him being able to run the ball would have opened up a lot of other things. But I know Sark was he stuck with Quinn, and so be it. I mean, that's his decision. But listen, the Ohio States are going to be there. I hope my Notre Dame Fighting Irish find a way to get in there and not embarrass themselves once they get in there. But we shall see.
Yeah, it's very early.
They
yeah,
don't
exactly.
Dame doesn't pull the same athletes as the LSU. But and on that subject, holy wide receivers come from LSU. The Chase Jefferson, the Neighbors, the Brian Thomas Jr., like holy receivers.
Receiver U, kind of. They've become 100%. Yeah. And unfortunately, man, just months ago, just the awful news in the passing of Kyron Lacy, man, that is just, speaking of LSU, that is just horrible. Yeah, horrible. I mean, it's just awful. I mean, what can you say? The kid's 24 years old and he's dead now. It's just, you hate to see that. It's terrible news. But you're right about LSU, that they have been kind of a little wide receiver factory developing here the last few years. Can't say enough how much fun this has been with Jordan Schaefer here, our guest on this edition of the Hitting the Books show. Jordan, any final words before we wrap it up?
I appreciate you having me. I look forward, and hopefully you'll have me back here soon, and we could talk a little bit more in depth about NFL coming up.
We will. I can tell football is definitely the one. Of all the major sports right now, the big four, football, basketball, hockey, baseball, would you say football is the one you're most locked in on?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Like everybody. There's a reason why football is king. Just from look at the ratings for NFL and college football on television, but also the betting handle. Like the amount of dollars that are wagered on NFL and college football compared to the other sports, it's not even close.
Not close.
Not even close. And it's the king for a reason. So not at all surprised to hear you say that football is what you lock in on the most. Jordan, it's been great. Appreciate you joining us. We hope everyone's enjoyed Jordan Schaefer on this edition of the Hitting the Books show. We appreciate him joining us and opening up about his playing days as well at the beginning of the show. But great stuff. Make sure you hit the like button on YouTube. We appreciate it very much. For Jordan Schaefer, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great rest of your day. And thanks for tuning in to another edition of the Hitting the Books show. Until next time, class dismissed.